Alrighty, welcome to the A8Manager version 2.5 release video. I'm going to try to go over all of the updates for you. First off, we'll talk about what I think is one of the big ones, and that's the ability to assign audio files that are not of the appropriate WAV file format. And so currently those will include WAV files, AIF files, FLAC files, OGG files. I believe on Windows you'll also get MP3s, window media files, etc. On the Mac, I'm thinking again you'll get WAV, AIFF, FLAC, OGG, and probably some other ones that Core Audio support. So just as an example of how that works, let's go ahead and get us a blank thing here. I'm going to drag in several OGG format files and drop those. We can see that they were converted to a WAV file format of the right type, and of course they were assigned to the zones as we would expect when we drop them there. That'll also work if you use a file browser here to go grab files from somewhere on your system. In both these cases, when they're copied from their location into here, they will be converted during the copy. If you already have files in your preset folder that are the wrong format, it will show up down here as an error. One of the audio file format errors. Let's go ahead and make this big enough to scroll one error. This isn't the exact error that you'll see, but of course it will be in red. It will say unsupported audio file format, and you can click on fix, and it will do the conversion from here. That conversion will delete the original file and replace it with a .wav file in this folder, while the other version of selecting from the file explorer or dragging and dropping will do the conversion when it copies it from the original location. So I think that's a big win that we got in there. Also added, you can now drag and drop to the file view if you want. So if you want to drag and drop a whole bunch of files here so that they're available to be selected from over here to assign to zones, you can drag and drop here as well, and that will do the conversion for you in the same way. Let's talk about the file view now. One of the options that I added was the ability to remove samples that aren't used by any of your presets. So let's get out of this one. And so to do that, I had to remove the two buttons we used to have up here, which were open and new. Now, of course, you can do those from here, open folder, new folder, and we can do a remove unused samples. We get a warning telling us that it's going to do that. It's going to delete all those files, and if you want to do that, you can say yes. And we've now deleted the WAV files that aren't being used by any of our presets. So that's going to be useful, I believe, as well. The other thing I added was there was a bug before where when dialogues came up that had a field to type into, this field was didn't have focus, so you had to click on here before you could type. So we got that one there, and as well for the rename folder 1.2. So that works that. Added for WAV files, rename and a delete, as well as we had for the folders here. Also in these pop-ups, the top of the pop-up displays the name of the item, so you can know that you've clicked on the right item there. That's going to be helpful, I believe, too. If you right-click on a stereo file, you get the option to do a conversion. You can make a mono version of it, or you can split it into two mono files, a left and a right file. For the mono, it will create a new file with the same name, -mono. And for the split versions, it will create the two files with a -L and a -R for those. Let's make sure I covered everything there. Oh, the other thing I also did is I removed, or I should say, I only show folders and WAV files in here now. Previously, we were showing the preset files, any of what I'd call the assimilator system files. So the presets, the Midi setups, last folder, those kinds of files, they all showed up in here. But you really couldn't do anything with them, so removed those from the list. You can still see those if you select Show All, and it shows all of the files as it did before. Yeah, let's move over here. Fixed a bug where previously, if you had modified your preset name, the save button didn't highlight until you clicked somewhere else out of this field into another field, but now that happens immediately. And yeah, what else do we got here? Okay, if you also previously, if you clicked in here, your cursor was at the end of this edit field, and you had to either backspace to delete everything or select it all and delete it. Now you go in here and it's selected immediately, so you can start typing immediately to replace the text in there. Let's see. Also added the scroll wheel. So previously you could do a control drag on these fields to change them. On the Mac, I believe it's command drag. Now you can also use the scroll wheel to do that scrolling. So added that. Let's see, for the tools, I've added explode. Explode is an option that will create a clone of this channel into any number of channels following it, and then set the sample and loop points for those channels to be a portion of the sample. So if we were to do this with explode 2 channels, we'd take this and copy it over here, and you can see that the original has half of it selected, and this has the other half selected. We can also do, let's do all 8 then, and we now have all 8. As you can see, now we've got sample and loop settings for the 8 pieces of that one there. Yeah, oh, I skipped over the preset list here, did some updates to the preset list. I think the big one is, there are some bug fixes in it, but the big one is being able to reorder these. Normally, if you wanted to reorder your presets, you have to go and change the name of 2 presets. So if we wanted to swap preset 4 and 5 here, we'd have to go move preset 4 off to some file name, reset preset 5 to preset 4, and then whatever that file name was, do it there. So anyways, now we can just do that with the pop-up menu here, so we can move that guy up. We've changed the order. This can be useful if you use a series of presets in a set that you're performing, and you want to change the order of those, so that's helpful with that. Let's move off to zones here. So I'm going to get me a blank one to work with here, and let's load up a sample here. I tried to clean up how this looks, make it a little easier to use and understand. One of the things was to put a little bit more space here so that you can see the tab is actually, when you select the tab, that it's actually this whole thing that is getting selected. I also darkened up the non-active tabs. Again, hoping the contrast between the active and the non-active makes that a little more obvious as well. I removed the source buttons down here where you used to select whether you wanted samples or loops. And as you can see now, if you click on the labels here or you click on the fields, it selects the area for you, and that's what you're editing and looking at in the micro viewer or the loop tuner. And also I removed the play buttons from down here and moved them up here. So so we can see again that those are associated with this that we're doing up here. So I hope that's going to be useful. Added a 0 line into the loop tuner. That might be useful as well. Separate out of here, but having to do with the sample, I made the handles bigger. These are twice as big as they used to be, so hopefully those will be easier to grab and use. The other feature we've added is, let's just go off into this sample here, get these to some, swap over here, get these to some obvious there we go. So let's say we want to align our sample begin and end here so that they're at the 0 crossing so that we don't have a pop. We want to move, let's move our sample, align our start sample by moving it to the left to the next 0 crossing. Just right click on the field and we can say go over to the next 0 crossing there, and we'll move this guy to the right, find his next 0 crossing, and there we go. Now we got a nice loop match there and we won't have a pop. Put proper error messages, so if you drag a non-audio file here, you actually get an unsupported file type message now. That's useful. Let's see. Did that. We talked about that. Remove those. with the play buttons, and cool. So then two other options that you have on the module, two other features like the explode that we added over here. We also have it explode in zones. Same idea, just across zones. So we can do 2 zones, and now we've created 2 of those and split it in half. We can also go ahead and do the explode of 8 zones like we did previously, and that goes all the way across. The other feature that they have on the module is called flip. Allows you to reverse the order of things. So currently, each of these slices are from the first slice to the last slice. Well, if we wanted to swap that around, we can use the flip tool. So starting from whatever tab you're on, you can flip this zone and a certain number of zones. Let's just do all 8. So now we can see they go backwards now. So that's been added there, and that's the flip option. And lastly, MIDI setup. So previously on a preset, you could select one of the 9 MIDI setups you've created, but you had to create and edit those over on the module itself. So I've added that here on the preset tools menu. Select MIDI setup, and we now have a dialog for editing those. Got all of your fields with all of the values that you would normally have. Those are all pop-ups except for this guy, and this guy's a numerical value. Just like all the other edit fields, you can use the control drag or command drag to change values. You can use a scroll wheel to change values. We've got the pop-ups like we do in all the other fields. We can do a clone, a default, and a revert. So also, once you've edited this, you'll see the MIDI setup tab that you've edited has a star here, and the save button is highlighted. So we can go ahead and revert that back, and we're not edited anymore, and our save button has gone dim as well. So if we wanted to go ahead and clone this entire MIDI setup to another one of the MIDI setups, we can do that either, again, individually or to all. So let's clone it over to 2. Now, of course, I can see that one's been edited as well. We can, of course, revert this one. And, of course, that leaves 2 edited still as well. And we can revert that one. And now that's not edited either. Yeah, so just to go over clone again, in case you haven't seen it in one of the previous videos or used it before, clone can be used either on a per field basis, or it can be used on the entire MIDI setup. That is the same as in the regular editor, where you can clone channels and zones across each other in a similar way. And of course, just like everything else in the system, if we chose to cancel out of here without saving, we're going to be warned, telling us we haven't saved. We can continue with the canceling, which means we'll lose the edits, or we can cancel the cancel, and we can do the save here, and that will save all those for us. And that is that, I think. So anyways, I made the video before. I've got the release put out for you, but that will be out by the time I upload the video, and you can download the versions from the website, which will be linked in the YouTube video and any of the forums that I post this in. You can go download it from there and get that later today.